I'm here in Medjugorje and I'm with, what's your name?
Declan Sheridan.
Where are you from, Declan?
Well, I live in Navan, County Meath, but I'm from Longford originally in Ireland.
And how many times have you been in Medjugorje?
I've lost count, but probably over 20.
Why do you come back all the time? What is Medjugorje for you?
It was the experience that I had here the first time I came.
What happened?
Well, I decided to come because I used to pray to Our Lady, and when things would work out as I hoped they would, I used to wonder then whether it was because I prayed or would it have happened anyway. But when I thought about it for some time, I decided it had to be prayer, and that I had never said thanks to Our Lady. And I came to that I would make a pilgrimage to a Marian shrine as a way of saying thanks to Our Lady. And I didn't have one in particular in mind, but any Marian shrine. It could have been Lourdes, or it could have been Fatima. But as it turned out, my wife went to the local church and she saw a poster up for a pilgrimage to Medjugorje, and she came home and she said to me, now she didn't know anything about what I had in mind, she said, well, I see there's a poster up for a pilgrimage to Medjugorje, would you go? And I said I would, and she booked it and we went, the day came when we were to go. And as we left the house to go to the airport in Dublin, this idea came into my head, and it was, what gift did I want? And I was adamant, I'm not looking for anything, I don't want anything. I'm only going to say thanks to Our Lady for all the help she had given me. But I couldn't get rid of the idea out of my head all the way till I arrived here in Medjugorje as to what gift did I want. And I was equally adamant that I was not looking for any gift. But we came here, we arrived in the evening, it was dark, but Ivan was having a vision up at the cross of Our Lady, and being greenhorns, we decided, we'll have to go up there. But we had no lights and we had nothing, no preparation done, and we didn't know what the hill was like. And I suppose we were lucky we got down without breaking some limbs. There was a guy down here, had a little house just down here behind us called Finbar O'Leary. And someone told my wife that if the door was open at the house, that Finbar would be there and we could go in and he would pray with people. And the next day or some days afterwards, we were up on the hill and we came down, and she looked in across the wall, saw that the door was opened, and she said, well, we'll go in, and we went down and he was in. And he came over to meet us at the door and he said, asked us would we like him to pray with us. And I thought he would pray with Bernadette because she was in front of me and I was behind her, and we said yes. But he just walked past Bernadette and came over and put his hands on my head. And he hadn't said very many prayers until I was lying on the floor, not able to move. I could see nothing, it was black dark, it was... I didn't want to be lying on the floor, but I had no choice because I couldn't move. And I don't know how long I was on the floor for. I would say about 15 to 20 minutes. And gradually I started getting back power. I remember I was able to prop my head up with my hand first, and then gradually the power came back into my body. And my wife says I was crying, but I don't remember that I was crying. But eventually I got onto my feet and we left, and we went back over to where we were staying. And thought about it, hadn't a clue after happening to me. And a few things happened then other than that, but the last night before we were to return home, we were to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning so that we get the bus to Dubrovnik for 4 o'clock. Bernadette woke at 2 o'clock and got out of bed because there was no switch beside the bed, and the switch was over by the door. So she had to go and turn on the light to see what time it was. Saw it was 2 o'clock, put out the light and got back into bed. But I was awake now at this as well, and I was lying in the bed thinking, it's not worth trying to go back to sleep. And it came into my head that I should start praying. So I started saying the Our Father, and I was adding more meaning, words that with more meaning to me anyway, to the Our Father. And when I got to the end of the Our Father, I said, "For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory." And when I was saying, before I had it finished, something came into my body. It was the most beautiful feeling that I ever had in my life. It was, I can't describe it. All the way I can say is I was glowing, right? No, I wasn't glowing, but I felt like I was glowing. And it lasted. We got up and we had the breakfast and we got on the bus and we went back to Dubrovnik and we were waiting at the airport to get board the flight. I still had this fire, this feeling, right? And continued on till we were back in Ireland. And that's the reasons why I'm coming back to Medjugorje. Now, I never had such intense feelings as that again, but I had several other things happen to me while I was here.
What are the other graces? What happened else?
Oh, you'll be here all day.
Say again?
You'll be here all
All
day.
day, yeah. You have some nuggets for our viewers that they understand what Medjugorje is?
Well, I can't tell you them all, but I'll tell you one of them, right? Back where we live in Navan, there's the St. Joseph's Young Priest Society, which society that supports young priests both by prayer and by financial assistance when they're studying for the priesthood. I was coming out of Mass one Sunday and I was tapped on the shoulder and asked would I like to join, and I had no intention of joining them, but to put the person off that asked me, I said I would think about it and I'd let her know later on, with the intention that I would never let her know. But anyway, I came out here and I told her I was coming to Medjugorje and that I'd think about it and I'd let her know. I came to Medjugorje, but I didn't think very much of St. Joseph's Young Priest Society. And the last night that we were here, we had been in Columbus. We stayed a bit longer than we should have, and I was anxious to get to bed, to go to sleep because we were getting up early the next morning. And as soon as I got into bed, I closed my eyes, hoping to go to sleep. But instead of that, all I could see was a person who was clothed in a brown habit and had a stole over his head, and his arm was bare to here to his elbow, and he had a container of oil, and he was pouring this oil around my head very slowly and deliberately, and he was doing it, and as soon as I'd opened my eyes, there was nothing. I was in the room, there was nothing there, but as soon as I closed my eyes again, he was still there pouring this oil over my head, around my head, in a very slow, deliberate movement. And I thought, he's going to destroy me with this oil. And then I thought, oh, it's only an old pair of pajamas I have on me anyway, and it won't make much difference. And I must have went to sleep, because he was, as long as I can remember, all I could see was him going around with this. Got up the next morning, had my breakfast, got down to the bus, and there was a priest with the group, and I was the first to get on the bus, and the priest was the second. And he came and he sat down beside me. And he said to me, "Well, Declan, did anything strange happen to you in Medjugorje this time?" And it came into my head that I should tell him about this thing about the oil. And immediately when I mentioned that what had happened, or what's going on in my head, or wherever it was going on, he says, "Oh, that has to do with priesthood. And you need to read Psalm 133. And he talked about priesthood, a bit about it. He said, Aaron was the first priest, and they anointed his head with oil. And even he explained to me that going round in that circle around my head was a circle of holiness. That was the circle of holiness. And I had a Bible with me, but it was in my case. But when we got to Dubrovnik, I got the Bible out and I read Psalm 133. And I was more than surprised. I don't know whether you know Psalm 133 or not.
What is generally, what does it say?
It's very short. It's only 6 lines long. It says how good and, no, the exact words I mightn't have, but it says about how good it is when brothers dwell in unity. It is like the oil upon the head of Aaron that flowed down onto his beard and onto the collar of his robes. It is like the dew that falls on Mount Hermon. I don't have the exact words now.
That's when doesn't mustn't be.
But it's all about now. To me, it's all about priesthood and being anointed. So needless to say, I did join St. Joseph Young's Priest Society.
You became a priest then?
No, I didn't become a priest. No. I was married and I was a policeman.
Mm-hmm.
And,
couldn't that be? For me, when I heard this story, I thought about Saint Charbel. The oil of Saint Charbel.
I don't know anything about that.
It's a Lebanese saint. You can get the oil here.
Yes.
It's from the tomb, and it's a healing oil as well.
Yes.
That's what my first impression was when I heard this now. I thought this is Saint Charbel, and it's healing. Maybe something, healing your thoughts.
Well, I don't know anything about Saint Charbel.
Just came like that.
Yes.
And you go to confession here in Medjugorje?
I do, yes.
Can you explain people? A lot of people are scared to go to confession after 30 years. And they think, what will the priest think of me? What would you tell them as an advice?
I spent a lot of time thinking. I had a brother who was younger than me, and he developed leukemia. And he died at 27 years of age. And I was very upset, even now.
Like me, my brother died last year. Same, I understand.
I questioned the existence of God and why God would allow something like this to happen. And it took a long time, but eventually I came to the conclusion there was a God, and that he existed, and that he was a loving God. And it was like a parent who was a child. You do anything for your child, and you'll forgive them, even to do things that you mightn't approve of. And, we say the Our Father, and the first words, Our Father. So, he is our Father, and he is prepared to forgive us, just as a parent would forgive their child. Now, I was a policeman for 31 years, and I dealt with an awful lot of difficult situations, and a lot of them would be between parents and child. And mothers really impressed me, because no matter what the child did, they were still their child. And it's the same with God. No matter what we do, we're his child, and he's prepared to forgive us. All we have to do is ask. And that is what we do, or as far as I'm concerned, that is what we do in confession.
Same with me.
Yes.
You ask for forgiveness. I went yesterday night, and in Jewish tradition, they say like the closest the love of God can be described in this world is the love of a mother for a child. It's the closest. How you could explain
well,
it.
Now that I'm retired and I go do a bit of walking, and I notice young mothers particularly with young babies, and they're checking them every 10 or 15 meters to move to make sure the child is okay. And you know, I did think, well, that's God's love for us. So that it's infinite. It's even better than a mother's love for her child, which is so strong and so important. Because if we weren't loved by our mother, in particular, our parents in general, but particularly about our mother, you'd be lost. You know. So that's the way I look at it. But that's only my thinking of it.
I want to confirm it. A Catholic convert said, he experienced it's an ocean of love who is surrounding us every second of our life. And we can tap into that ocean of love if you open our heart. And especially here in Medjugorje, we can tap into that love.
Yes.
And you know, our faith states, when we are in a state of grace, well confessed, we can receive the Eucharist. It seems a lot of people in the West don't understand anymore. What is the Eucharist? What is it for you?
Well, it's, as it says, it's the body and blood, soul and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. And it is given to us out of love, right? And I suppose I talked about St. Joseph Young Priest Society. Without priests, we will have no Eucharist. So it's very important that we encourage and support our priests, right? That it's, without them, we'd be like a child without a mother.
Yeah. Mother Church.
Yes.
As you said, they are the gateway to heaven. They're the most hardest judge. They give the most, and we judge them the hardest. Instead of judging, we should bless them and pray for them. That's a priest told me yesterday. Also for politicians, we are like this and that, they're doing this. And the priest yesterday in confession said, Tom, we need to bless. Also the lay people can bless. And we can bless them and pray for them that they have the right wisdom, that they are protected, politicians and priests. And you pray the rosary a lot?
Yes.
Why do you pray it?
Well, I suppose as a child we always said the rosary. I remember that when at home in our house, when my mother would start to say the rosary, we would head for the stairs to head for bed. And she used to block us with the handle of a brush before we get up the stairs. And then when the rosary was finished, of course, we wouldn't want to go to bed. So it was something that was there always, right? I mightn't always have said the rosary, but now I say it every day.
Why do you say that? It's a fruit of Medjugorje?
Well, yes, because it was so emphasized here that you say the rosary and read the Bible and do all, you know, the Divine Mercy and all these other things. Yeah, it became more important to me to say the rosary plus other prayers.
Yeah. You felt also, you had it. The fire was instilled in you here in Medjugorje. You described it, and that's a bit Medjugorje. I think we all received that living fire for our faith. That it's something living and not a cultural thing.
Yes.
Revivement of the faith.
Yes. I have come back. I don't know how many times. I've lost count, and hopefully, I'll come many more times.
Yeah, I think he's on fire. She set you on fire. That's good. That's good. And you have a favorite saint?
Well, my name is James Declan.
Yeah.
And St. James has become something that has become more important to me as I got older. I was baptized James Declan. And I was called James after an uncle of my father's, or a brother of my father's. And this uncle my mother didn't like very much. So there must have been a compromise, because I was baptized James Declan, but I was called Declan. Mm-hmm. Because she said, no child of mine is going to be called after him. So I'm known as Declan, and if someone called me James now, I would hardly know it. But there was two apostles called James. Mm-hmm. James the Lesser, who was one of the first martyrs. And of course St. James is the patron saint of pilgrims. And he has become more, but I wouldn't know him. And of course St. Declan is an Irish saint who predates St. Patrick. And I intend to go to Waterford where he was based, but I haven't got there yet. But it's on my bucket list to go there.
Mm. Wow.
And St. Columkill, my parish where I came from is the parish of Columkill in Longford. And he was fascinating saint. Even today, he affects us in the copyright laws that we have. Because he copied the book, and the original author of the book objected to him copying the book. And they took their case to the High King in Ireland. And the High King had to make a decision. And the decision he was made, that's reported to us now after 1500 years and more, was to every cow its calf and to every book its copy. And that's where we get our copyright laws from today.
Beautiful. And we have to value our Judeo-Christian culture. We are under attack. And somebody said on Facebook, Jesus Christ died in public, and we have to defend our faith in public, like you do the rosary rallies now in Ireland, in Poland, Germany, it happened now too. We have to stand up, because the world get lost. We got the fullness of faith. We are not like snobbish, but we should defend our faith, you know.
Yes.
And Our Lady is doing it in a smart way here, gently setting people on fire. And you have a favorite Bible scripture?
Well, I have come to love the Psalms. Psalm 22 in particular. And that's because of the Inigo prayer. And I searched to find it until I found Psalm 22. And the Inigo is really Psalm 22 in shorter form.
Beautiful. And you have a favorite spot in Medjugorje? What you like? Apparition Hill. There it is. There are your friends. Apparition Hill up here. Yeah.
But also I like, but it's getting more difficult to climb up Cross Mountain.
Yeah.
You know, as you get older.
It's tougher, no?
Yeah.
4 times Apparition Hill, I would say, 4 or 5 times.
But I love it up there. I love to go up and spend a couple of hours just on the top of the hill on my own.
In silence. Yeah.
Yes.
That's where you hear God. That's what Our Lady says. Do you have a special message of Our Lady you like? What touches you?
Well, no, but the message of prayer, to pray. Like every message nearly says pray.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, pray, and you are safe.
Well, one of the other instances that I had here was when I had this kind of someone in my head talking to me, and I said, you know, I only prayed to you when I wanted something. And the reply I got was, that doesn't matter. That was a sign of faith, right? And now, especially when you go to funerals and people are gone before us marked with the sign of faith, I'd say, well, did you pray? Did you say any prayer, even minimal amount of prayer? I'd say, well, they were marked with the sign of faith.
Beautiful what you are saying. And did you make the experience, when you live in the intention, thy will be done, as it said in Our Father, that you're more in peace, more in joy, things fall into place?
Yes.
Same experience?
Yes, I love I've grown to love the Our Father, and I regard it as the perfect prayer.
Yeah.
That it came from Christ, and if he wasn't able to pray, how would we be able to pray?
So beautiful.
And the Our Father to me is the perfect prayer.
And at the end, what would you tell people? Why come to Medjugorje one time?
Well, I don't know whether I've talked to people, and none of them seem to have the same experience in Medjugorje that I had. But I had magical experiences here. All I can say, they were out of this world. And I don't see why I should have experience out of this world that other people wouldn't have. So I would recommend go and try it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
What can I say? Thank you so much for that interview.
Thank you.